The whole concept of Emanators is that they're meant to be the most exceptional, fascinating, and apex of each path. Other than the eons themselves, there are more or less like the heralds or lieutenants for that eon, singled out by that eon and drawing its power directly. Now, Emanators work a lot differently depending on the eon. Some Emanators shouldn't even exist, while others are quite literally legendary. So in this video, I'm going to be ranking the Emanators based on how dangerous they are and their threat level. There will be a few exceptions to this video because there are characters that, in my opinion, could actually rival the power of Emanators. And one of these characters is quite literally the most dangerous character in the entire game. And I'm going to be sticking to the Emanators that we actually know, not just hypothetical Emanators that we don't even know about, like Emanators of Mythos that are just said to be out there but we don't know of them. There is no tangible way to compare them to anyone else. But let's start with the weakest Emanators in the game in my opinion, and the ones that pose the least threat, the Emanators of Harmony. Basically all of them. Harmony kind of works in a very interesting way, because the Emanators of Harmony are embodiments of Xipe themselves, known as the harmonic strings. Elenev, commander of the Eternal Centurion, Dominicus, the wisher of the harmonious choir, who we fought in a boss battle in Penacony, that is the one Sunday was controlling, Constantina, the stringer of Panacoustic Theater, and Beatrice, the merrymaker of the Blissful Ball. So essentially, anyone that can tune the harmonic strings like Sunday or Robin are kind of indirectly Emanators because they can control an Emanator through tuning, but they're manifested objects or embodiments of Xipe themselves. And not to be trifled with in their own right, but because they're more or less bound to Penacony, used primarily by the family or anyone that can tune, they are sort of limited. And other than Sunday, who secretly followed the Order in Penacony's chapter, its Emanators are not really used for combat or hostile means, so their threat level isn't really that high, and I can't really rank them any higher than that, since there's a lot of stipulations that go with actually harnessing the power of these Emanator objects of Xipe. Now, second on this list is going to be somebody that has insane potential, kinda limitless, but isn't necessarily super threatening yet, as they're very young, naive, and immature. But if that were to change, they could potentially be unstoppable since the game itself does not really know what their abilities all entail. And that is Silverwolf, the youngest member of the Stellaron Hunters and a genius hacker, who has the power of ether editing, something only found in her home world of Punklord. The ability itself is quite literally said to be able to edit reality itself, hack into it. Silverwolf views the entire universe as a data code, all meant to be hacked and played with, which means her potential power level could be off the charts. But just the sheer potential that actually has gives her a power that I think rivals even an Emanator itself, and she's said to be the best there is at ether editing. This is a topic for its own video, as I can't even fathom the limitations that this actually has, and I have scoured the game and the internet to find anything that tells us if there are limitations on her power, and the most I could find is, well, maybe we don't know. And right after her, I'm gonna put Kafka, because like Silverwolf, Kafka has a insanely game-changing ability. The difference is, Kafka is a little bit homicidal. She can destroy planets and take a life if she needs to without a second thought. She also doesn't even feel fear, and that is the reason she joined the Stellaron Hunters in the first place. Elio promised her that if she joined, he promised her that she will feel the feeling of fear at least once in her life. That's crazy, and makes her incredibly dangerous. She also has a game-changing ability called Spirit Whispers, which means she can take control of anyone she wants. And this is even proven to work on inorganic beings, not just living beings. And not only can she control people's minds, but she can suppress their Mara, and even erase memories, like she did with the Trailblazer, us. And there hasn't been an instance in this game where anyone has even shown resistance to this ability she has. No one's been able to counter it yet. So it's safe to say, in my opinion, that Kafka is even stronger than all of the Stonehearts. Not all of them combined, but each one individually. But that is just my speculation, because they all have a fraction of the power from an Emanator Diamond, who we will talk about. Next, we have Jingliu, known as the Lightning Lord. The generals who command each Xuanjiun ship possess powers and spirits bestowed by Lan themselves, So much like the Harmony, the Hunt kinda draws its Emanator power in a similar way, not just a random assortment of hand-picked individuals gazed by that Eon, but rather, the Arbiter Generals can harness that power, but it's more formal like a position, and Jingliu is no joke. However, he is known more to be methodical and lazy. He likes to work smart, not hard. That is why his playable path is erudition. He likes solving problems before they happen, not through sheer force or strength. And although he is incredibly powerful, unless you're directly attacking the Xuanjiun Luofu, he is no threat to you and he's not incredibly dangerous. And he did require some help in defeating Phantylia. Next we have Iron Tomb of the Lord Ravagers. We don't know a lot about this Emanator, but apparently its form of destruction as an Emanator of destruction is technologically. So it will attack civilizations and their technology and basically collapse a nation that way. But I'm even being generous here to say that even somebody like Silverwolf could not shut this Emanator down with her ether editing abilities, and being the best hacker in the whole entire galaxy that we know of. Out of all of the Lord Ravagers, Iron Tomb seems like a very strategic one, but when it comes to threat level and how powerful they are, more on the weaker side of things. Not to say that they should be underestimated, as they still are an Emanator of destruction. And I think right there with Iron Tomb would be the Lord Ravager that's said to be a chess grandmaster. Another very intelligent Lord Ravager of destruction, but they seem more like a methodical strategist rather than a incredibly dangerous, powerful, very threatening individual, with a lot more planning and scheming than rather brute force. But again, it's hard to say for sure as we are speculating. Next we have Dr. Primitive, who is Genius Society member 64, a scientist committed to numerous crimes against humanity, causing universal chaos with his experiments, and has caught the eye of the Galaxy Rangers, who hunt this member relentlessly for their crimes against humanity. Dr. Primitive is no joke, and is naturally an Emanator of erudition. Dr. Primitive is someone that also said to love the pursuit against him. He loves being chased. Dr. Primitive also has a bunch of researchers who follow his instruction. It's not even known if Dr. Primitive is organic or an inorganic being, lives to cause chaos, and will do anything for the sake of experimentation, ruining entire planets if need be. And as of right now in the story, the Galaxy Rangers are pursuing him relentlessly. And although he's one of the most dangerous beings in all of Honkai Star Rail, I can't justify ranking him any higher than this, because besides actually messing with the Galaxy Rangers and other planets, causing a lot of chaos, there's nothing to suggest that he could actually defeat anyone else above him, or is as dangerous. And everything we know about him suggests that he likes to stay in the shadows, stay off the grid, and never actually confront anyone directly. Dr. Primitive is a pretty hard one to rank really, because he can destroy worlds, mostly in the name of research rather than doing it for the sake of it. He's basically a very dangerous intergalactic rascal. I guess that's the best way I could put it. This just feels like a good spot for him in the ranking. And I think Phantylia would fit right around here as well. We know exactly what Phantylia is capable of. She attacks you from within, corrupts you eternally, mentally, takes control of living beings, their bodies, destroys them, even makes them cause self-harm. And once she's infiltrated a society, it can be quite devastating long term. And she's also no slouch in her own right, which makes her incredibly dangerous, because her form of destruction, you might not see it coming until it's too late. She is incredibly dangerous, but it relies a lot on catching you off guard. She's no slouch in her own right, but I do think the Emanators ranked above her could deal with her once they know the problem is there. It should also be noted about Phantylia is that she is Mara-struck. She's a combination of destruction and the abundance. Even when we defeated her on the Luofu, we couldn't outright kill her. And honestly, it would take a pretty unique scenario to even do that, since we know that long-life species are a pain to deal with. Which is actually now a perfect time to talk about the next character in this list, and somebody that I not only think could kill Phantylia, but is actually going to. Which brings us to Feixiao, one of the Arbiter Generals, and could quite literally be the most powerful in terms of raw combat. She is a long-life species, Foxian with some Borisan blood in her veins, and can grab the attention of Lon of the Hunt, gain its gaze, and have weapons summoned down to her if need be. She is no joke, and she proved to us not only how powerful she is in both combat and raw power, but she's an expert hunter. She is the embodiment of the hunt, and has insane resolve mentally. So even somebody like Phantylia, if they were to corrupt her mind, she could more than likely even resist this corruption, like we seen with her boss battle. I don't think Phantylia would have the greatest time taking control of her mind. I think Feixiao would be able to fight off Phantylia from within, and Feixiao herself said she's going to be hunting down the Lord Ravagers, and Phantylia being the first one on her list makes the most sense, and everything we learned about Feixiao proved that she's more than capable of doing this. She's probably the best for it. I guess to put it simply, rather than Phantylia controlling Feixiao's mind and body, Feixiao will probably bait her into doing that, and then Phantylia will be trapped now within Feixiao's body with Feixiao's mind, along with her curse and Boris and blood, her resolve. And I think that's exactly how Feixiao's gonna bait and hunt Phantylia. Because remember, when you're hunting prey, more times than not, you set traps and bait them. I can think of no better way for Phantylia to die than actually die doing what she does to destroy people. Doing the same thing she did to Xuanjiun, but only when she does it to Feixiao. That'll be the biggest mistake she ever makes. Now, Jingliu is the exact reason why you have to include a few non-Emanator characters within an Emanator video talking about their threat level. Arguably, you know what? No, not even arguably. The best swordsmaster to ever come out of the entire Xuanjiun alliance. And if she was an Arbiter General able to gain the powers of the hunt in Lan itself, she would be damn near unstoppable. She already is. And her ambitions go far beyond what we can comprehend. She wants to kill an Eon. And now, Jingliu is Mara-struck and arguably stronger than she was in her prime. She's even responsible for training Jingliu. And the only reason she isn't an Arbiter General probably is because she's banished and had a falling out with the Alliance. It's hard to actually say whether she's stronger than Feixiao. Both have X factors, both are apex predators, and damn near unbeatable when it comes to hand-to-hand combat, weaponry, fighting, you name it. I think a fight between these two would come down to splitting hairs, but I just can't not give the edge to Jingliu. She is single-handedly the reason why the Cloud Knights have such an incredible reputation among the entire universe and cosmos. Even if she's a traitor and her memory and records wiped from the entire Xuanjiun, no one can truly forget Jingliu. And now that she walks a fine line between sanity and Mara-struck insanity, that honestly just makes her that much more threatening and dangerous. And I feel I can confidently say that all of the Emanators and individuals I've named before this point, I truly do think she could actually best them, and she is more dangerous. Period. Now moving on to two Emanators of Preservation that are not only powerful, but have the richest organization in the entire universe backing their every move. Now, we don't really know anything about Taravan Kane, who is said to be an Emanator of Preservation along with Diamond. Although if you've watched my channel long enough, you already know what I think of this guy. I think he's actually an Emanator of Ouroboros of Veracity. So I'm going to place him with Diamond here in this slot, since I assume they're going to be pretty similar in strength and threat. Because they're both really high-ranking members and board members of the IPC, I will just assume that their threat level, how dangerous they are, their power level is ballpark pretty similar, and their motives are all pretty similar too. They all work for the International Peace Corporation. And although Diamond is incredibly dangerous and powerful as an Emanator of Preservation, he's cool and calculated. He's not just attacking anyone random for anything. Everything for the purpose of expansion, the IPC's ideals and goals, and making money. But Diamond also has 10 powerful individuals that can go to any different planet to help coerce and persuade them to join the IPC, known as the 10 Stonehearts. In my opinion, they're all an extension of Diamond, given a cornerstone part of Diamond's Emanator powers. We don't know all of the Stonehearts, but we have met a select few, and they are not to be taken lightly. This also means that Diamond can have his influence in a lot of different planets simultaneously, and the Stonehearts are pretty well known throughout the cosmos, but they all just have a fraction of his powers. And even if you outright resist the IPC at first, they're not gonna just come annihilate you. They do have a rhyme and reason for what they do. However, if Diamond decided he wanted to eliminate you or your planet, there are very, very few people in the universe that could actually stop him if he'd put his mind to it and decided to. Plus, he has the funding and backing of the IPC organization, which is basically the equivalent of having both Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos financially backing you as an emanator on Earth. There's very little you couldn't do. Next, we have Sun Devourer, one of the Lord Ravagers. Not too much is known about this Lord Ravager, other than the fact that it leaves your entire universe or whatever star system you live in complete and utter darkness, erasing all of the light, the sun, and the stars, leaving you defenseless and helpless. And then the Antimatter Legion relentlessly, with their sheer numbers, then just attacks each planet one by one. And there's nothing you can do, which makes this Lord Ravager incredibly dangerous, because it's going to be a long drawn out destruction and there's nothing you can do to stop it. We learned from Glamoth, Firefly's home world, even having the dead debris of endless swarm bugs blocking out their sun had terrible effects on their home planet and the ecosystem and ended up destroying that civilization. So imagine what this Lord Ravager could do on a greater scale. It's kind of terrifying to think about. And next we have Selenova, who is said to be a frontline general emanator of Nanook. And this Lord Ravager has fought with the Xuanjiun ships many times. Multiple ships, which means she's fought many of the Arbiter generals and their entire armies. And it took 3 different flagships with 3 different Arbiter generals to have a ceasefire with Selenova. And from what we know in game, not only is this Lord Ravager insanely strong and just on the front lines being a menace, being too powerful to defeat, but it seems that she has a ton of strategy behind what she does. And once she realized that a bunch of Arbiter generals and flagships had to come together to stop her, calling a ceasefire is just cool and calculated in my opinion. We were able to deal with Phantylia on the La Fu, with Jingliu, us, Dongfeng, and a few others, but it took 3 flagships with their Arbiter generals to stop this Lord Ravager. But in my opinion, there's only one that's stronger than her, and that's Zephyro. This Lord Ravager, an emanator of destruction, is said to be a one-man army with a passion for violent destruction, and obsessed with raw power and the beauty of things in the moment, just as they're destroyed, gaining the nickname the Scorching Flare. So not only is this Lord Ravager said to be a one-man army, but it has an extreme passion for the Doomsday scenario and the destruction of everything. Even the morning actors state that many galaxies have been utterly erased by this Lord Ravager alone. Just them. No army, nothing else. And obviously we don't know much about the Lord Ravagers other than the ones we've met, but I rank this one at the top of all of the Lord Ravagers as the most dangerous and threatening in the galaxy. Next we have Herta, the Genius Society number 83. Her with her endless army of puppets that serve her. It's hard to really gauge just the limit of her potential power, but I won't rank her any higher than this, although it could be argued that she could be higher than this simply because she's not incredibly hostile, and is not really looking to destroy anyone in particular, unless they get in the way of her research. But it has been hinted in the game that she does have a sinister side to her, and because Now's of Erudition was actually created by the first ever Genius Society member, the game even implies that maybe she works as almost like a partner to Erudition itself rather than just a loyal follower and emanator, creating a simulated universe so you can actually ask the Eons questions and solve the mysteries of the universe. Means that you're one of the most exceptional people in the entire universe. She is said to reside within a clock tower at the edge of the cosmos, pursuing the ultimate mysteries of the universe as a sorceress. It's hard to even really gauge just how powerful she actually is, and what her limitations actually are. It seems almost limitless. And being able to communicate directly with your Eon pretty much at will makes you borderline unstoppable. The only thing really protecting everyone from Herta is that she's not really malicious for the most part. But we've seen what Genius Society members can do if they are, like Rupert I and the Mechanical Wars. So somebody like Herta being able to wreak havoc across the cosmos would be easy for her. And it's said that she's saved her home world from being destroyed 19 times. We don't know what from, but it almost seems like it would have been effortless for her. There are only 4 individuals that I would rank above Herta. Next on this list is the Arbitrators, Emanators of Equilibrium. We did have some Arbitrators talk to us every time we would level up our ascension basically. They are the ones that contain our power and make sure everything is balanced in the universe. Ho-Oh is probably one of the most powerful Eons in the entire game with one of the strongest paths. And this is also true for their Emanators, the Arbitrators. And the Arbitrators will do anything to keep equilibrium and balance on course. And although we don't know much more else about the Arbitrators, every single world that have seen them or had influence by them, they are mistaken for Eons or gods themselves pretty well 100% of the time. They're not even really known as Emanators, but more as deities or gods themselves, kind of like I guess the Titans of Amphorius, just omnipotent beings. I mean, the fact that the Trailblazer who has a Stellaron in their body gained the attention of the Arbitrators is huge. Such a big deal. Which brings us to good old Elio, who has the powers of scripts and foresight. And we know that the Stellaron Hunters follow the path of finality, an Eon that can travel through time. We are at the nitty-gritty now, and I could pretty much place any potential Emanator of finality in this slot. We don't actually know for sure if Elio is an Emanator of finality, but the game certainly suggests that that's what he is. Not the Eon itself, but at least an Emanator of finality calling the shots for the Stellaron Hunters, one of the most important groups in all of Honkai Star Rail, which means this guy is incredibly dangerous and powerful. And honestly, when talking about the higher end of this list, it really could be any character in the top spot, but the reason I'm giving Elio the 3rd spot as one of the most powerful characters in this game is because we don't actually know for sure if he's an Emanator of finality. Certainly can use the powers of finality with absolute ease and precision, and has his powerful Stellaron Hunters to do his bidding and follow his scripts. But he does not seem to be a homicidal or very malicious fellow. Again, when you're talking about time travel, it's hard to gauge that, if he has limitations to what he can and cannot do. But there's 2 people that I think could actually best Elio, potentially. The next one being Acheron, an Emanator that should not exist. And I thought a lot about Acheron. The game itself suggests that she should not exist because nihility doesn't interact with anyone or anything. It's an endless black hole eon of nothingness and meaninglessness. And we all know too well her very tragic backstory. But the thing about nihility is that there might be no limitation to the power that you can draw. If eons single individuals out depending on the eon in very unique ways to make them emanators, but nihility doesn't do that sort of thing, then I think that nihility is an eon that you could potentially draw a limitless, endless amount of power from it, because the eon does not care. It's not paying attention. It's just sort of there. I talked a lot about this, and I even made a whole video about it, but Acheron sort of represents the worst case scenario for Raiden Mei, a variant of the same characters in different worlds, but in this version, Raiden Mei, it's the worst case scenario where she loses everyone and everything, literally becoming the embodiment of nihility itself. But she learns to embrace that, and despite being the worst case scenario, especially after the Penacony chapter, where she has a pretty positive send-off, nihility might be a power that you take, not necessarily that's given to you directly by the eon singled out as an emanator. Limitless power, and once you embrace the endless nihility, your emanator powers might literally be limitless, and also being able to pretty well warp time and reality. There is no end to the potential of Acheron and her power, not to mention, she has no problem taking a life, which makes her threat level that much higher. She will not hesitate to end you if she needs to, and even characters with more mental powers, like the Remembrance, the Harmony, once you poke into that head of nihility, we saw in the trailer with Black Swan, it's not going to end well for you. It's that old saying, you better call an ambulance, but not for me. So even a Lord Ravager like Phantylia, good luck poking in that head. But there's still one character that I think even trumps Acheron, although it could be debated. We're getting to the point in the video now where the top 3 or 4 characters you could argue, because there is no literal tangible way to say for sure. But I'm giving the top spot to Polka Kakamond. And a lot of you might not even know who she is, because you learn about her mostly through the simulated universe, and I did make a video about it if you want to check it out. If you're curious about who she is Genius Society member number 4. best known for being a serial killer and murderer that kills other Genius Society members. That kinda goes against Now's erudition's principles and will, but also is kinda supported by this Aeon at the same time. It's a very weird paradox. And you might be saying, well, how is she the most powerful Emanator in the video? And she's not even a confirmed Emanator. Well, good question, I'll tell you why. Her power is the butterfly effect, and her face is scribed out throughout history so no one can recognize her. She is known as the Lord of Silence, because that's what she does to anyone she wants. She even murdered Rupert I, nearly murdered us in the simulated universe along with Herta until the Aeon of Elation Aha saved us. She has done things and murdered people throughout history. She has murdered and changed the fate of history time and time again, murdering people throughout the timeline, and nobody's been able to stop her. Essentially, there's this thing called the Circle of Knowledge in Honkai Star Rail. It's this big circle of like all the known information in the universe, of the understanding of everything. We're getting into big mumbo-jumbo philosophy here. Polka Kakamond basically safeguards the Circle of Knowledge and prevents any geniuses from stepping out of it, and no one can do nothing to stop her. Not all the geniuses in the universe and the timelines. They can't do a damn thing. And it even states that she might be leading the universe to its finality and no one can do nothing about it. And you want to know how powerful she actually is? They tried to prevent her from killing Rupert I. Ho-Oh, the Aeon of Equilibrium, and Mythos, the Aeon of the Enigmata, both teamed up to try to stop Polka Kakamond. All they could do was slightly change the angle of her scalpel as she murdered the Mechanical Emperor. So an Aeon tried to stop her, and all it could do was successfully shift the angle of how she murdered someone. That's insane. During the Scholar's Strife, the anti-organic virus broke out. She stepped in and killed all the scholars affected. We don't know why. Obviously the timeline needed it for whatever she wants to do. It's not an understatement to say that everything that's transpired throughout the timeline could be her doing, using her powers of butterfly effect and erasing herself and all information about her in the timeline. If she's not an Emanator, then she should be. And despite all of what I just told you, again, I made a whole video about it. I've just scratched the surface of what she's capable of and what she's done. She's also a calculated serial killer, so it makes her that much more threatening. Her sole purpose is to kill people specifically for certain reasons, and she nearly killed us in the simulated universe. If she decides you're dead, then there's little to nothing you can do. Even Eons have tried and failed to stop her in her murderous intent. So in my opinion, she is the most dangerous character in Honkai Star Rail, even among the Emanators. Now before I wrap up the video, I'll talk about the main Trailblazer, us with a Stellaron in our body. We are definitely dangerous, but I don't think we've reached nearly our max potential yet. And I think pretty well all of the characters in this video could deal with us if they needed to. Whether it would be suppressing us, mind control, manipulating the actions, and our good nature would definitely get the better of us. I think the Trailblazer is going to be among the top of the OP most dangerous characters later on in the story. Not to say we aren't dangerous now, but we're pretty level-headed and good-tempered. We're not malicious, and we're not trying to weaponize the Stellaron in our body at any given moment. Same goes for Welt. He's definitely powerful enough to be in this video, but he's such a methodical and level-headed guy, with no malicious intent. Even if somebody was trying to kill him, Welt is the kind of guy that would probably try to find a way to defeat you without actually taking your life if he doesn't have to. So although he is powerful, his threat level isn't necessarily crazy high. Now if somebody like Kafka got a hold of him and mind controlled him and used him to do some pretty heinous things, well that could be a pretty different story, but again that would be more Kafka being dangerous. But I thought I should acknowledge these two characters because people will ask why they're not in the video. And this is my ranking for the most dangerous and threatening Emanators in all of Honkai Star Rail that are currently alive, in order. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would you replace some characters? Switch some around? A lot of it is up to theory and discussion because there's a lot we don't know, and when comparing different Emanators, there's a lot of nuance and context missing. So I did try to do my best for my reasoning in terms of potential power level, different characters' temperaments, their motives, etc. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and as always, we will see you all in the next one. Later.